News 10 NBC at 5 starts right now.
Schools will reopen in New York in September. That call came from Governor Andrew Cuomo today. Tonight we have team coverage on the decision. We're looking at what makes reopening possible and specific things your schools need to do in terms of communicating with parents and teachers. We start with Berkeley Breen and the governor. Burke.
Hey, Charles, it came down to the infection rate. It's low enough in every region in the state so that schools can reopen if their plans are approved by the state health department. The governor was specific today on what schools need to do. Each district has to have at least 3 online discussions with parents in the next 2 weeks. The Rochester City School District has to have 5 because of its size. They need at least 1 discussion, each district, 1 discussion with teachers. And then every district needs to post its plan on remote learning, testing, and contact tracing. Again, at 1%, the governor says the infection rate in New York is low enough for schools to open.
Let me say it this way. You look at our infection rate, we are probably in the best situation in the country right now, as incredible as that is. So if anybody can open schools, we can open schools.
Now, Charles, here's the thing. The governor says there's 127 school districts in New York that did not submit their reopening plan. I asked his office for that list to see if any are in our region. They have not shared that information with us just yet. Coming up at 5:30, you're going to hear the concern about where the money is coming to pay for everything schools need to do to open safely.
And now, as you mentioned, districts have to have a very specific plan when it comes to testing teachers and students with symptoms, and the plan for what to do when there is a confirmed case of coronavirus.
News 10 NBC's investigative reporter Jennifer Lukey has been talking to local school superintendents, and she's live from Chi-Li tonight to look at how they're planning to address that. Jen?
Well, Berkeley, Charles, the plan has to be in place because, of course, if there is a student who they suspect of having COVID-19, they need to have protocols in place to get that child tested or that staff member tested, and then to backtrace any contacts that person may have had. The governor wants those plans posted individually on each district's website as soon as possible, because those plans may be the difference as to whether a parent will or will not send their child back for in-person instruction. We know that all schools will be requiring temperature checks and the completion of a health survey for every student and staff member every day. But then what?
That has been a big question for parents. They want to know what happens the minute a student has a symptom of COVID-19.
Yep. So we've worked really hard on our plans in terms of what would happen for this. So you have, and you can imagine September, October, the fall is always a very busy time in terms of illness in schools.
If a fever develops at school, a child is isolated until they're picked up by a parent.
We're not doing the testing at school. Our people are not trained for that. We're not that agency here in Monroe County with the way we operate. We work more as a triage.
But if a student has a fever, how do you ensure that they actually get a COVID test before coming back to school?
So that's a great question. And I don't know. Would we be having the nurse contact and follow up with that family in the morning to find out, did you get to the doctor? What happened? But we also are at, this is where the partnership is important, because there may be some doctor's offices that aren't recommending a student come in. Maybe they want them to watch their symptoms for a little bit longer. So there's a lot of different scenarios sort of built in and baked in there that are going to be difficult.
So those details are still being worked out. But if there is a COVID-19 test and it's positive,
and it would be the Department of Health that would be determining who then to follow up with. So who else might need testing, who else might need to quarantine, and all the recommendations that go from there would be coming directly from the Department of Health.
now the superintendents tell me they are hoping for more guidance from the Department of Health, from the Commissioner, Mike Mendoza, in the coming week or two so that they can share that information with parents. As Berkeley mentioned, they will be having meetings, at least 3 of them in the next 2 weeks, that parents will be able to ask questions and interact with, and then a separate meeting for teachers on that matter as well. Jennifer Lukey, News 10 NBC.
All right, thanks, Jen. Some teachers tell us they're still concerned about getting back into the classroom.
Actually, News 10 NBC's Andrew Hyman reports some teachers may not even send their own kids back. Andrew?
Charles Burke, when kids and teachers go back to school, there will obviously be some changes, like some students won't actually be in the building. But for those who are back, the teachers we spoke to say with those changes will be some challenges. The concerns we heard stretched across several subjects, from properly keeping students physically distanced down to the available cleaning supplies needed to keep the building sanitized. Now, a recent USA Today poll showed roughly 90% of teachers polled shared those same concerns. Now, one teacher we spoke with told us she's afraid the hybrid model may put students at a greater risk of passing along the virus, and she's choosing to keep her daughter at home.
Until I feel that we have some models or measures in place that feel safer, such as 14 days with no new cases in Monroe County, I don't feel safe sending my daughter to school.
So much comes out of the teacher's pocket that we are hoping that the district is really prepared financially to be able to keep up with the cleaning that needs to happen throughout the school year.
And coming up at 6, teachers agreed they will have to get a bit creative when it comes to addressing some of these concerns, and we'll give you some examples. Charles?
Thanks, Andrew. And some parents of Rochester school kids admit they are nervous.
News 10 NBC's Emily Putman asked about their hopes and concerns the next school year, and Emily's at World of Inquiry School number 58 in downtown Rochester. Emily?
Thanks, Burke and Charles. I talked to parents today in the Brighton area and the city of Rochester, and most seemed cautiously optimistic about sending their kids back to school. There are still some unanswered questions about health and safety guidelines and enforcement of those guidelines, but most seemed happy to at least be taking a step towards normalcy.
There was a sense of hesitancy among parents today as they processed the announcement from Governor Cuomo that school districts are allowed to reopen in the fall.
I'm a little bit nervous, honestly, but I think that because the levels of coronavirus in New York have gone down significantly, that I think it's a great opportunity to give it an attempt and see if we can sustain that.
Theo's 3 children will be going back to the Brighton School District in a few weeks. The close communication he's received from the district has helped calm his nerves about sending his kids back.
The schools have been in contact with us through email, and their teachers have been in contact with us. So I think they're going to have a lot of things in place, and it's going to be safe.
Tim Kuhn is another parent who feels similarly.
You know, with the numbers being so low right now, I think it is okay to go back if people are being safe and wearing masks. Ava, you're going into what, first grade?
First grade.
However, Tim will only be sending one of his 2 daughters back in the fall.
My younger daughter's in preschool, and with all the centers and touching, we don't think we're going to be sending her, but my daughter is in Brighton, so she'll be going 2 days a week.
One mother of 2 told me that because her boys go to private school and tend to have smaller class sizes, she does feel slightly better about sending them back. However, despite the smaller class sizes, her feelings on the subject do fluctuate daily. Reporting live from downtown Rochester, Emily Putnam, News 10 NBC.
All right, let's wrap up our back-to-school coverage for you. Governor Cuomo says all school districts in the state can reopen this fall. He cited a low infection rate when making the decision. Schools must clearly and simply post their plans about remote learning, testing, and tracing, and each school district has to hold multiple online meetings and discussions with parents and teachers by August 21st.